Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. And it just gets crazier, doesn't it? Every day it gets crazier. And what I'm going to talk about in this video, a lot of you will have heard of, especially if you're in the UK. It's a big story, of course, in the UK, but if you're in another country, you may not have heard about this terrible event that took place, which basically seems like a gang of teenagers, five teenagers or five young men anyway, driving the wrong way up a main road, driving in the wrong lane, going the wrong way, crashed into a police car, which in the police car were these two officers. Um, and on the left, we have Tom Clough, who's 38 years old. And on the right there, we have Matthew Blades, 37 years old. Police officers. Tom was a soldier. He was a serving soldier as well. Men that have contributed a lot to society in general. Matthew leaves behind a wife and two children, two young boys. Tom leaves behind obviously his family, but also his partner. And they were killed instantly. But not only that, the five young men who were driving in the wrong direction, let's have a little look at them. Well, do you know what? Every picture tells a story. These are the five young men that were killed. I mean, this is one of those totally pointless acts. Now, the thing is, I don't think these young men, as you'll find out later, are a sad loss to society. They were causing havoc. The thing is, driving the wrong way up a main road like that at high speed, not only they've killed themselves and obviously they've killed the two officers, but that could have been anybody that they killed. They just didn't care. They even killed themselves. I mean, where's the mentality of doing something like that? Why were they doing it? Was it for kudos? Apparently, they were videoing it, and there's some speculation because there's this Tik-Tok trend of people recording themselves going really fast. We're going to look at that. Though the police have said there's no evidence that this particular drive was being recorded for TikTok. It was being recorded, I think, by one or more than one of these boys. They're all dead as well. Everyone's dead. The police officers died. They died. 7 people. All because these idiots were driving the wrong way up a main road. And as I say, those two policemen, Matthew and Tom, just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. They weren't chasing these boys. There had been a police chase, but it had been abandoned just moments before. The police had been chasing them, but not these police. These police were on their way home after their shift. They were literally just on their way home. They should have arrived home safely to their families, to their partners, their children. They didn't because of these idiots. And as I say, every picture tells a story. To me, I just look at that picture. I just think, as much as I feel, I wouldn't celebrate anybody being deceased. And I feel for their families. But their families are different. They're not they're not coming out and condemning what these boys did. You know, if your boy takes the wrong turn in life and does things that they shouldn't be doing, like driving the wrong way at high speed in a car, and they've got strings of convictions as well, not all of them, but several of them have got many other convictions, or, you know, they're known to the police in that area. They're probably known to the neighbourhood. You know, law-abiding people will live in terror of people like this. If you live on a council estate, for example, in, you know, or anywhere where there's social housing nearby, you don't know who you're going to end up getting living near you, next door to you. Could be people like this, terrorising the neighbourhood. They terrorise the neighbourhood. And there's, you know, I put in the description of this video, is Britain becoming ungovernable? Because what can be done about these people? They're like anti-heroes as well. They, you know, they've just been a balloon release for one of them. No, they're treating him like some sort of messiah, giving him a send-off with a load of balloons and bloody flares and, you know, polluting the atmosphere. And lots of young boys were at that balloon release, young boys on bikes. I'll show you the video later. They'll grow up to think these are heroes, and they'll grow up and do exactly the same thing as they did. I mean, it's horrible. You know, the families need to come out and say this was wrong what their sons did, but they're not, because they're all involved in God knows what. So there's been several arrests. It's reported that there may be links to organised crime. And this whole thing comes on the heels of another similar incident in Ireland, you know, which left, again, the boys that were actually driving the wrong way are dead. And then the car that they crashed into that was carrying people that were on their way for a holiday, including one 7-year-old boy, and they're all sort of fighting for their lives in serious condition in hospital. So what pointless act? So what is it? Why is this suddenly, you know, is this like a supposed brave thing to do? Did they get kudos for it? Do they just get thrill out of it? Are they that strung out on drugs or alcohol or combination of the two that they don't give a shit? You know, they're like almost feral, aren't they? You know, and I think there's a lot of this in Britain. You know, people moan about immigrants, but you know what? These are the type of people causing the most damage, I believe, to society in Britain. And some people just trying to live their lives. You know, most people just want to live a nice, peaceful, tranquil life, you know, go to work, have enough money to eat, bring up their children, live in safety. And no, people aren't safe. And in my opinion, the police can't cope with it either. And the police certainly themselves are not safe. Who'd want to be a policeman or woman in this day and age? You know, look what happened to these just coming home from their shift. They weren't even on a job and they died. Terrible, isn't it? Anyway, that's what I'm going to be talking about. It's quite complex. This will probably be quite a long video. I'm going to do a little bit of waffle to start off with. Sorry about that, but I've not done a live for a while, so I've not done any waffle for a little while. But basically, when I say waffle, all I'm going to be saying is, as I say, I haven't done a live for a little while. Just the heat, etc., and one thing and another. But it has cooled down here in Spain. Those of you who know my channel, you know that I'm in Spain. It's been unbearable, the heat, but it has cooled down actually, which is nice. The humidity is less, so I feel like my brain's starting to work again. But yes, just plodding on with life as we do. We plod on with life, don't we? And these policemen were plodding on with their lives, if you'll pardon the pun, PC plod, of course. Yeah, coming home from a shift, not even actually on a job or anything like that, and boom, that's the end of them, and the end of the boys that did it to them. And the other, obviously, I want to say rest in peace to these two officers, and condolences, heartfelt condolences, go out to their families, their friends, and also to the families of the perpetrators, because people will be hurting. Trouble with these sort of families of these kind of people is only their families are important, aren't they? They'll all be sort of like trying to make these boys into heroes, anti-heroes, but they cause misery for other people, and not only these police officers that they've killed, but I expect, round the area where they lived, people are walking in terror, normal people who are just trying to live their lives, living in terror from people like this. But anyway, condolences to their family too. Some of them have been arrested, of course, because this is an endemic thing. It's thought to have links to organised crime. So I'm going to say thank you to everyone. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Remember, there are free ways you can help my channel. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe, so please consider it. If you're not already subscribed, leave that DNA on the subscribe button, the share button, the like button. And a special thank you to my members who go that little bit further to support my channel. We've got members live coming up on Thursday, this Thursday, which will be the 26th, 27th of August. It'll be the last one of August, of course. So I look forward to that. Thank you to those of you who've bought me Ko-fis or sent PayPals, etc. Really appreciate all those things, all those extra things you do to support my channel. Don't forget to check out the Ko-fi page. That's where the merchandise is. There's still 25% off everything until the end of August. So if you're looking for a mug, a Vicky Marie Chat's mug, or if you want to buy my book, Confessions of a Spanish Teacher, now's the time to get it on the Ko-fi shop. I will put a link up in a minute because everything's 25% off. Thank you to those who have already bought things. Let me put the link up to the Ko-fi. To the shop. Yeah, and remember that all the prices on there include postage and packing. So there's nothing else to pay. Whatever the price is on there for the item that you want, which can be customized as to how you want it. Find the shop. Shop. Oops. Where's the link? Just trying to find the link to share it. Of course, can't find it. I might just have to share the page. And if you go onto the page, to the Ko-fi page, and then go into the shop, because I can't see like a link directly to the shop. Obviously, oh no, Oh, maybe that's it. There it is. So yeah, everything's 25% off. Every price that you see on there includes postage and packaging, so you don't pay any more than that. If you don't want to pay by PayPal, if you want to pay a different way, contact me by email. I put my email up there. There are, lots of different ways you can pay if PayPal doesn't suit you. I think you can pay by card on there as well. So this is my email address. Vicky Marie Chats. Remember, it's Vicky with an I. Vicky Marie Chats at gmail.com. If you want to customize whatever it is you want to buy, or if you want to pay in a different way, just drop me an email to tell me what you want and we can arrange that. No problem. Hi, David. Hi, Tracy. Sorry, I should have said hello to Tracy first. I haven't got around to my hello yet. So, yeah, thank you for all of you that support my channel in any positive way. And hello, you lovely lurkers. Good to see you. Hello to replay crew. Kisses for lovely lurkers. Kisses for replay crew. Thank you for watching. Okay. Now that, thanks, Tracy. Yeah, I'm going all over the place instead of following my normal procedure, and then I always end up, doing the wrong thing. But anyway, so yeah, thank you to everybody. I hope you're all okay. David, I got your email just by the way, and I am going to reply to it. I just haven't had a chance yet. Sorry to hear that. It's terrible. Anyway, I will reply to your email later on today. What else? I feel a bit distracted this morning. I don't know why. Some days I should be level-headed today because the heat has cooled down so much. Do you know what? I think it is this case. Because I've been researching. Hi, Lily. I've been researching this case this morning. And it has made me so sad. I know I keep saying it, all cases obviously are sad that I cover on the True Crime channel. But some just seem so pointless. Like this is such a pointless thing that's happened. Could have been avoided. It's not an inevitable thing that happened. What's the purpose of it? What's been achieved by it? Even if, normally people have a motive for killing someone, even if it's not a motive that we can understand or that we would agree with, we can think, oh, well, they did it for the insurance policy, or they did it for the custody of the children, or they did it through mental health, or they did it because they were seeing somebody else, or they were leaving them. There's a reason that we can at least get our head around a little bit. I think in this case, I just cannot understand why you would drive backwards, drive the other way around or up a main road and put your own lives at risk. Do you know this is how pointless it is? Hi, Heather. Hello, hope you're well. Why would you do it? Put your own life at risk as well. It's like, it's so pointless. Literally, if they were these thickos that have done this, if they were going to get marks for pointlessness, they'd get full marks, wouldn't they? What have they achieved? What has been achieved by this? Nothing. No financial gain. They'll probably go down as heroes in their community because they obviously come from a community that has got different rules to the rest of us. That's what we're going to look at. These are subcultures. I studied this when I studied sociology many years ago. In society, there are a lot of subcultures in society. People that are not in the not in the establishment, say, for example, So a lot of people who feel that they can't achieve through, recognized ways like going to university or getting a good job or whatever, they think they create a subculture where they are King Dick in their own little world. They're nothing in the big world. They're nothing because they're just not nice people. So they're not even pillars of the community. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to be rich and famous to be respected in your community. But these kind of people, um, they try to get respected in a different way. It's almost an anti-respect or fear. They try, so a load of people will be scared of them. If you're not in that subculture, you're terrified of these people. And if you're in that subculture, these boys will be like heroes, won't they? They'll go down as some sort of heroes. I mean, look at this chain around this guy's neck. It just looks ridiculous, but they think they look brilliant. They think they're special. The way they look is special. But as you say, Heather, to most normal people would look at them and just think, what a load of idiots. They look like idiots. But the trouble is they're dangerous idiots. They're scary idiots because they're going out and causing havoc, putting everybody's life in danger. And sadly, it was these two policemen, wasn't it? Matthew and Tom. They're the ones who suffered. Tom Clough, 38 years old, ex-soldier, he's on the left. And Matthew Blades, father of two, 37 years old, on the right. They're in the peak of their life. In your 30s is probably the peak of your life, isn't it? Just going home from work. Imagine it. Could have been anyone. Could have been you, could have been me, could have been your loved one, could have been your family, could have been my loved one, my family. These twonks, they're indiscriminate. Who they hurt, they don't give a shit. They do not give a shit. Hello, Musley. But anyway, their families cared about them, I suppose, and they're in their little subculture. They are King Dicks, and now there'll be even more. They'll be like revered, they'll be remembered as heroes. It's ridiculous, isn't it? How could you think of that? How could you think of them as heroes because they're driving the wrong way up the motorway at high speed and they could kill anybody anyway? And they've done lots of things. I've got a list of their convictions that I'm going to read, and just ridiculous. So anyway, for one of them, there's been a balloon release. I mean, they're releasing balloons and flares. Let me show you this because I just cannot believe it. That people, they're hailed as heroes. Hailed as heroes by their subculture. They're not heroes. How are they heroes? So there was a balloon release for one of them, Jacob Matuziak, who was one of the 5 young men killed in the head-on crash. So let's have a look at this. Bloody ridiculous. I know we live in a free country, but this part of me thinks they shouldn't have been allowed to do this. Just make sure it's sharing. Come on, should be sharing, but I can't see it up there at the moment. Oh yeah, it is sharing. Let me start it again. We'll find out where it is now. So yeah, this is polluting the atmosphere. Celebrating the life of someone who kills two police officers. Somebody make this make sense for me. So this boy, he's been in a car that has been driven the wrong way at speed up a main road there in Cleveland. And they're celebrating his life with letting off balloons, polluting the atmosphere because they don't give a shit about anything apart from their own little subculture. What also is quite scary, isn't it, is these are men, they're young men, aren't they? There's kids there even, you know. They're making anti-heroes out of these people. And will these boys be doing it tomorrow? Stealing a car and driving the wrong way up the motorway at high speed. How can you celebrate this? Their parents. Absolutely terrifying. I find it quite scary because that is British society now. Parts of it, elements of it, not the immigrants. These are British people. And these kids, why aren't they at work? These teenagers, why aren't they doing, I don't know, apprenticeships or going to college or doing something productive with their lives? Instead, what they're doing is learning how to be twonks, aren't they? Oh, thank you, Lily. Thank you, Lily, for the jewels. You know, it's just unbelievable. And it's scary because you know what? There's normal families have to live amongst these people. Normal families, you know, who have to live terrorized. There's many families, normal families, that are terrorized by these feral subcultures in their society. If you live in social housing, if you live on a council, you know, council estates, at least they used to be respectable, didn't they? The people that lived there. What these were, oh, I don't know. I'm just sort of a bit flabbergasted by it all. And you know what? Not only I feel sorry for the police officers, obviously, I feel for anyone who has to live amongst these kind of people. You know? Imagine having to live amongst these kind of people. You would be frightened to step out your door, wouldn't you? You don't know, because apparently there's connections to something else that's gone on where there was a car ramming properties. You know, this isn't a one-off. just this time, they got involved in an accident and 7 people died. Well, that's 5 of those bloody those kids out of the way, I suppose. Solves 5 problems for the police, because they won't be committing any more crimes. But the thing is, other people, there'll always be more coming up. You saw all those at the rally, at the balloon release. I think it should be balloon release. It's a load of balloons releasing a load of balloons, isn't it? That's how it feels to me. Just what's wrong with them, and where's their families? Where's their parents? Why aren't their parents saying, look, no, you don't celebrate the lives of people that have killed 2 police officers? You know, I'm not glad those boys are dead. I think it's a tragedy for them as well. But you know what? If that was my son, I'd be saying to him, what you did was wrong. You know? But it doesn't feel like this is what's going on here. You know, they get exactly their upbringing. But you know what? There's plenty of families get brought up on council estates and don't have much money and this, that and the other. They don't do things like this. Why do they do it? Why do they do it? It's, you know, there's plenty of people that are brought up on council estates and are brought up with values. We don't dream of doing the things that these boys have done. So what's the difference? What changes it? No, it just makes you wonder, doesn't it? It's got to be the values of the parents, surely, hasn't it? Got to be the values of the parents. Maybe the parents haven't got any. I don't know. Where does it stop? It's quite depressing, isn't it? Very depressing. Anyway, just let me, for anyone who maybe does not know. Sorry, I've just got to put some windows down. As usual, I've got loads of windows open. I think that's what's Steve. And it's very complex. There's so much to it, because now there have also been, so obviously the boys who did it, the main perpetrators that were in the car, they're all dead. So I also want to spare a thought. Ambulance that had to turn up at that scene where 7 people were dead. Can you imagine what a mangled wreck those 2 cars were, and what they've had to do to remove the bodies, you know, to try and work on them, see if there was any chance they could save anybody. So I just want to put a thought out there, because the trauma involved in being a paramedic or an ambulance driver, etc. You know, it's about time we started recognising these people more. There was a thing on Twitter, on X the other day, Zach Polanski, the leader of the Green Party, what was it he was saying? That they were going to try and stop the police using truncheons and tasers. It's like, fucking hell. What are you going to do? Just give them a rubber hammer or something to catch criminals with? You know, Britain is it's just, there are not all of Britain, but there are parts of Britain that are no-go areas to the police. And he's proposing taking away tasers and taking away truncheons or what, batons. How are they supposed to be able to actually arrest anyone then? You know, when you bear in mind that these criminals, they're hardened, even the young lads, you know, they could be 18, 19, and you can't deal with them. They've probably got knives, and what's just going to do, send the police out with a rubber hammer or something? I mean, come on. Give the police a chance to be able to control society, to make society safer to live in. The other thing is, when you see these high profile cases of police getting killed like this, who's going to want to be a policeman or woman? You know, can you imagine your son or daughter turned around and say, oh, I want to go in the police? You'd be like, no, you're not, you know, because it's terrifying. It's dangerous. And everybody hates you. You know, you've got these stupid auditors going round auditing the police. They want to audit the criminals. Why don't they go around and audit these gangs? They won't do that. They'd be terrified of doing that. They're not scared of the police because the police are toothless. They can't do anything. They're so, you know, that is one thing in Spain. It's like the other extreme. You know, people do respect the police in Spain. I won't say they like them, you know, and sometimes they don't like them, but they respect them. They respect them, you know, they don't challenge them the same. They don't try and fight with them, or because they know they won't get away with it with the police in Spain. It's not a bad thing, really, because it does make it a safer place to live for normal people. So there you go. In the UK, they say, no, take away tasers and truncheons from the batons from the police. Oh, yeah, give them absolutely nothing to work with, you know, when they're trying to apprehend a dangerous criminal. Yeah, just let them try and do it, you know, with osmosis or something. I mean, there's something wrong with Britain. So plenty of places in Britain are complete no-go areas to the police, which means that your normal average person who lives in these areas, they're terrified to even put their head out the door, aren't they? You know, it's so depressing, really, and especially if you lived in one of those areas. So there's been a load of arrests. So obviously the perpetrators themselves, they're dead, so they can't be arrested. The investigation has just started. It's very complex. You know, I'm just touching on things here. There's going to be a lot coming out as this investigation goes on. It's been referred to the Independent Office of Policing or whatever. They're supposed to be investigating it. It's so complex. You know, it is a very complex case. But in the midst of it all, there's been arrests that are thought to be connected to organised crime. So that's what I'm just going to read you an article. Let me put the policeman's picture back up again. You know, what is the answer? What is the answer? How is this going to be dealt with? You know, how is this going to be dealt with? And how's it going to be stopped? You know, how many more of these stories are we going to see before, you know, people feel like they're living in safety in Britain? I mean, I should do a poll for my British viewers. Who feels that it's safe, you know, to wander around the streets in Britain, even in the daytime? So anyway, 12 people have been arrested as part of the investigation into the A66 crash that killed 7 people. I mean, 7 people. 7 people in one crash. It's a tragedy, whichever way you look at it. Whether you like the police, you don't like the police, whether you sympathise with the boys, you don't sympathise with the boys. It's just an absolute tragedy, and it's an avoidable tragedy. So 9 men and 3 women, and the ages are between 19 and 61, have been arrested across Teesside on suspicion. So if people don't know the area, this happened, it's in Middlesbrough, I think, where it happened, near Teesside. So on suspicion of a range of offences, including possession of a firearm and being part of an organised crime group. One has since been charged. So one person's been charged. In the early hours of Saturday, a Volkswagen Passat that had been pursued by police travelled the wrong way down the A66 near Middlesbrough and crashed into an oncoming police car. Two PCs, and all the 5 occupants of the Passat died. This one says they all died as well. What was the point of it? Didn't they think they could die in a crash? Did they think they were superhuman? Oh yeah, let's drive the wrong way up this road at 100 and whatever miles an hour. We can't die. We're superhuman. Anyway, Cleveland police said it was investigating serious criminal activity that resulted in this fatal accident. So PC Tom Clough, 38, PC Matthew Blades, 37, died in the crash, as did, let's have a look at the boys, and while I read their names out. I mean, I do, I couldn't celebrate the death of any person, particularly a young person. But you know what? This part of you just thinks, that's a problem solved for the police. They did it to themselves. Nobody did it to them. They did it. They're responsible for their own deaths. Them. Nobody else. Police didn't do it to them. They did it to themselves. So these are, don't know if it's the order that they are in the photo. I'm just reading their names. Michael Robert Cahill, 23. Jacob Matuziak, 23. Mackay Saddington, 18. Theo Ray, 17. And 17-year-old Cole Robert Worthy. Look how young they are. The oldest is 23 and the youngest is 17. Their lives just cut short. So they'll never get a chance to turn their lives around, will they? So the forces said that it received several reports of 2 vehicles being driven dangerously on Saturday morning. The first vehicle, believed to be a Volvo XC60, was seen ramming properties in the Middlesbrough area. The second vehicle, a Passat, is believed to have been associated with this activity. Both vehicles were operating with cloned number plates, but were picked up by automated number plate recognition technology. The Volvo has been recovered in Middlesbrough. So the first vehicle that they're thought to be associated with was seen ramming properties in the Middlesbrough area. You know what I mean? So they were like, it wasn't their first rodeo. Do you know what I mean? They're bad. They were bad actors, these boys, sadly. And 4 of the 5 people that were in the Passat had previous convictions. So Assistant Chief Constable Wayne Fox said the investigation had been fast-moving and complex. He said the events of that tragic night will have a lasting and profound impact on the Cleveland area and the communities we seek to protect. Oh my God, who would be a police person in that area? Not me, thank you. We have a duty to respond to and thoroughly investigate the serious criminal activity that resulted in this fatal incident and to bring all those responsible to justice. So this is going to be a long, complex investigation, isn't it? 12 people arrested as part of the investigation are 3 men, 24, 19 and 35. Look at the difference in those ages, though. There's a range of ages, isn't there? 24, 19, 35. I bet they're all on benefits. This is the other thing. I bet all of these boys, men, are on benefits. They're not going to be working, are they? All held on suspicion of participating in an organised crime group and possession of an offensive weapon. They're in police custody. A man, 21, held on suspicion of participating in an organised crime group, possession of an offensive weapon and criminal damage. He's been remanded on recall to prison. A 30-year-old woman arrested on suspicion of assisting an offender and who is in police custody. So that's likely to be somebody's partner, probably. A 20-year-old man arrested on suspicion of threats to cause criminal damage and public order. He remains in custody. Hi, Kelly. A 26-year-old man has been charged with possession with intent to supply Class A and B drugs, as well as the possession of criminal property. Another man, 39, a 47-year-old woman, have been released on conditional bail after both being arrested on suspicion of possessing a firearm without a certificate, possession with intent to supply Class A and Class B drugs, and possession of Class C drugs. All pillars of society, all be claiming benefits, no doubt. These are the sort of people, they whinge about the government, they're like anti-society, aren't they? They're subcultures where they're the king dick of they're the king of everything they survey. And then they claim their benefits, so make sure they claim their benefits. I'd be very surprised if these aren't on benefits. It almost makes you think, should we bring back national service? Would that be a good thing for young men? Is it because of course, years ago, really, when I think back to when I was young, my parents were coming out of the war years, and so people had been fighting a war, and so many young people had been lost in the war, men particularly. And then they came out of the war, and it was all about rebuilding. There was still a sense of solidarity, I suppose, with society. And then somewhere around the 80s, I think 70s, 80s, society started to change, didn't it? And it was every person for themselves. I personally think Thatcher had a lot to do with that. Everybody's just interested in themselves and making money, and this sense of community that there used to be in working class societies. It just went, didn't it? People don't identify with each other, in the same way. I don't know what the answers are, but it's very depressing. Who else? So, 61-year-old woman. Oh, sorry, an 18-year-old man released on unconditional bail after being arrested on suspicion of possessing a firearm without a certificate, possession with intent to supply Class A and B drugs, possession of Class C drugs. A 61-year-old woman released on conditional bail after being arrested on suspicion of possessing a firearm without a certificate. A 39-year-old man arrested on suspicion of threats to kill has been released on conditional bail. And you know what? The other problem in the UK, in my opinion, of course, is there's not enough prisons to hold these tossers. There's so many criminals in the UK. There's not enough prisons. They need to build more prisons, because what they're doing is letting them out. They're letting people out when they're deciding who to let out of prison. They're even letting PDFs out. They're letting, because murderers, letting people out on early release because they haven't got enough facilities, enough space. They need more prisons, because you can't let these people out there. That's another reason why people aren't scared of doing things, because they know there'd be no repercussions. They'll get a conviction or whatever. They'll be proud of it. They'll be going around their little subculture, swinging their bloody todger around. Oh, I've got a conviction for, firearm possession. It gives them more kudos. They don't care. They don't feel embarrassed about it. They feel proud of it, because that makes them even more king dick in their little worlds. So I think this is a big problem as well. Get those prisons opened, give people proper sentences and keep them in prison, so that they don't want to go to prison, don't want them thinking, oh, it's all right, they're going to release me in a year or something, and then they come out and they've got more kudos because they've been in prison in their little world. Just weird, isn't it? Our society in Britain has just gone downhill, and people can blame the immigrants all they want, but these are not immigrants. These people, these are British people. These are British subcultures. So the Independent Office for Police Conduct has launched an investigation into the collision following a self-referral from Cleveland Police, which is mandatory when someone dies following contact with the police. Sorry, it's just like, you know, as if it's the police's fault. So apparently officers had followed the Passat for almost 7 minutes, but they abandoned the pursuit. This is strange. They abandoned the pursuit when the car went the wrong way down the A66 at South Bank. Well, the thing is, I suppose the police car's not going to think, oh, we'll go the wrong way down there as well. I think there was a helicopter chasing as well, but I don't know. But 10 seconds later, the Passat collided. 10 seconds later. So it literally only just gone onto the A66. These boys, they deliberately went onto the A66 the wrong way, it seems like, so that the police wouldn't follow them. But talk about, it's like Final Destination, isn't it? If you've ever seen those films, it's like, you know, these poor two guys, the two policemen, they just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. They would have left 10 minutes earlier. They would have left 10 minutes later. They would have, you know, not been involved in this, perhaps. Now, Saddington, one of the boys in the car, he did have a TikTok account that had previously shared videos about young men driving dangerously. You know, TikTok is responsible for these videos that they allow on their platform. You know, they're so sort of particular about some things, but yeah, you shouldn't be allowed to upload a video of you breaking the law. You know, you're going at 110 miles an hour in a zone where you're not supposed to be doing. That's what they do. They film the speed they're doing and load it up on TikTok. How is that even allowed to be on TikTok? These posts should be removed. Of course they should. Though the Cleveland police have said there's no evidence that it was for a TikTok video. Anyway, so there's been a fundraiser set up. So I just want to tell you about that, because if you see a fundraiser, it's raised a lot of money already. Let me show you. There's only one official fundraiser, so don't be lured in to donate, because you know things like this, high profile things like this, when they happen, you'll always get people trying to make money out of it. You know, there'll be people out there with fundraisers pretending to be from the families of these men, won't they? I mean, you know, because that's another way people are absolute twonks. But anyway, so I'm going to show you the GoFundMe, the official GoFundMe by Cleveland Police. Got to take the one down. So if you want to donate, this is the one to donate to. If I remember, I'll put a link in the description. So they've got a target of £1.2 million. They've raised 63% already. £777,000, just over, for PC Matthew Blades and PC Thomas Clough. So PC Matt Blades and PC Tom Clough were both dedicated and committed police officers who left their families and went to work to serve their community and protect the public. Hi, Darren. Tragedy struck these two brave Cleveland police colleagues in the early hours of the 22nd of August, 2026, and they paid the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty, they did not return home to their families. They leave behind heartbroken loved ones who will struggle to come to terms with the loss of their loved one. So, if you want to donate, this is the one to donate to. So, Cleveland Police Federation are supporting and will continue to support the families of Matt and Tom at this unfathomable moment. We're asking for help to support their families and assist them in any way as they try and navigate this traumatic time. Any funds raised will be split equally between their two families to be used as they so. The only official fundraising platform from Cleveland Police Federation. So if you want to donate, this is where to donate. Maybe I can share the link in the chat. I will try and remember. I do tend to forget afterwards to put it in the description box. I mean, I don't know how it works with the police. Will the family get some sort of, will the funeral costs be paid for, or will they get insurance? Have they got insurance? I don't know. I don't know what the circumstances are. But anyway, if you want to donate, that's where you can donate. Okay, let me put that down because I've got more things to tell you about. So I need to put these windows down as I finish with them. Right. So let me just tell you about the previous past offences of 4 of the occupants. 4 of these young men in this car had past offences. Cole Worthy, who's 17. Now, I don't know which is which, so I'm just going to put the picture up of them. I don't know which twonk is which. They just all look like twonks to me. You know, they just all look like wannabe gangsters, don't they? But anyway, one of them, where's it gone? Yeah, so Coleworthy, 17, had admitted offences, including assault of a police officer, using abusive language to cause harassment, alarm and distress, and driving without a licence and insurance. So he was, at 17, he's already an upstanding member of the community, wasn't he? Mackay Saddington, 18, had also been convicted of assaulting police officers, had pleaded guilty to racially aggravated harassment, and was caught with a knife and a Class C drug. Another an upstanding member of society. 17-year-old Theo Ray's offences included 12 for shoplifting, thefts from vehicles, assaulting a police officer, and aggravated vehicle taking. Another, absolute star. And Jacob Matuziak, 23, had pled guilty to using a vehicle without insurance and driving without a licence. And only one of the men, Michael Robert Cahill, who was 23, had no convictions. But something's telling me that just because he had no convictions doesn't necessarily mean that he'd never done anything wrong. He's just probably lucky never to get convicted. You don't feel like he would have been, Mr. Innocent sat in that car with the other 4, would you? Anyway, just to let you know that. So, yeah, these boys, they weren't angels. As I said, I don't believe they deserved to die, but they died through their own fault. They did it. Nobody did it to them. They did it. They were the ones driving the wrong way up that road. And, And in the process of, killing themselves, basically, because of recklessness, they killed 2 police officers as well. So, of course, there'll be no court case for them, but they'll have got instant karma wherever they've gone off this plane. They'll be atoning for what they've done, their sins in life, whatever. So, anyway, good luck with that, boys. Now, I just wanted to talk about. So this incident has come on the heels of a similar incident in Ireland. So just a couple of weeks ago, there was a similar incident in Ireland. Again, so it was 5 boys, 5 young men, I should say, not boys. I just think of them as boys. Young men with balaclavas on, for some unknown reason, driving the wrong way up the road. So apparently there's this Tik-Tok craze, whether it's anything to do with Tik-Tok or not. Balaclava-clad Tik-Tok joyride gangs terrorising Britain's streets. So apparently this is quite a common thing, but then there was this one in Ireland where they were all wearing balaclavas. People are still in hospital because of it. So 5 teenagers were killed. The 5 that were in the offending car, it was. Let me share this article, actually. Get their faces off. I don't want to look at them anymore, to be honest. So there's definitely, it seems strange, 2 sort of big incidents like this just within a couple of weeks of each other, doesn't it? It does seem odd. Why are they doing these kind of things? Why is it? When I was a teenager, we used to knock on doors and run away. It's like what the teenagers do now is drive the wrong way down a motorway or whatever with a balaclava on and video it and upload it to TikTok. This is what society has come to. So a boy, 7, amongst 4 injured after a crash that killed 5 teenagers. So again, a completely pointless act because all those boys are dead in that car. And the people that were in the other car, they are still alive, but they're fighting for their lives in hospital. Again, think of having to respond to an incident like this, having to cut bodies out of cars. So, my heart goes out to the first responders again and the paramedics, ambulance crews. What a horrible thing to have to deal with. So a 7-year-old boy is amongst 4 seriously injured people in hospital after a crash in County Kildare, in which 5 teenagers were killed while driving the wrong way down a motorway. 2 women are in a critical condition, while another woman and the boy are in a serious condition after the head-on crash. So it's believed that the injured family, 2 women aged in their 30s and 1 in her 20s, and the young boy were travelling to the airport to go on holiday. Imagine that. You're all excited, you've got packed, you're going on holiday, you're driving to the airport, boom. A car coming the other way, head on, whack. That's the end of your holiday, nearly the end of your life. This is how these people, something's got to be done about them. I mean, again, this is 5 boys that have now been taken off this planet, probably done the police a favour, to be honest, because I'm sure they've been, but they've got families. And your heart does go out to the families, but the families don't come out talking, they don't come out saying, oh, well, little Johnny had gone the wrong way in life or whatever. They're coming out, celebrating them, saying, is it like with that balloon, letting off those balloons and things? It's wrong what they've done, and their families need to come out and say it's wrong what they've done. They want to avoid it happening to other families. So the 5 teenagers have been named locally as Joe Carthy from Athy, County Kildare, Alex McCarthy from Carlow, Camille Puskowski from Limerick, Jeremy O'Brien and Jack Kennedy, according to Irish broadcaster RTE News. So it's a very similar situation. So the Taoiseach, Michael Martin, said his thoughts and prayers were with the injured, and the death of the 5 teenage boys brought untold grief. But they did that to themselves. You know, these boys, they've caused misery to their families. Nobody else has done it to them. They've done it. So, you know, they're responsible for their own actions. I think that's part of the problem these days is people are not, young people particularly, are not held responsible for their own actions. You know, they did it. They did it. And although it's tragic that they're dead, of course it is. Nobody would want to see young people die. But they did it to themselves. Nobody else did it to them. They're not victims. They're not victims, they're perpetrators. These are 3 of them, Joe Carthy, Alex McCarthy and Jeremy O'Brien. And apparently the crash happened between Junction 3 and Junction 4 of the M9 motorway at Moon at around 3 a.m. local time on Sunday. So that family didn't get their holiday, did they? Will they ever get a holiday? Will they ever get a holiday again? So Garda Commissioner Justin Kelly described it as a horrific incident and irresponsible and dangerous driving. And what makes this reckless behaviour even more appalling is that in some cases it is being done for social media likes, regardless of the potentially devastating impact it might have on innocent people in themselves. They don't care who's out there. You know, this family that they've ruined their holiday, their lives possibly, they don't care about them. That could have been anybody in that car. Could have been me, could have been you, could have been your family, could have been my family. They didn't give a shit whose lives they're putting in danger. Just didn't care. 7-year-old boy. Don't care. Could be anyone. Could even be their own family, technically. Because if their own family didn't know what, or some member of their extended family were out and about that night, could have been them. So he said that police do what they can to stop such vehicles, but also they have to take into consideration all other road users. And Ireland's Minister for Justice said he condemned in the strongest possible terms the reckless criminal behaviour. And he said, I also want to emphasise that anyone who makes a decision to drive a vehicle deliberately the wrong way down a motorway is engaged in lethally dangerous behaviour and it must stop. He said he spoke with Kelly on Monday and had emphasised to him that the Gardaí will have whatever resources they require from government in order to respond to this threat to public safety. And the Garda Representative Association said tougher laws were needed to deal with people. I mean, the thing is, maybe the police shouldn't ever chase these people. The thing is now, because we've got CCTV, helicopters that can track, you know, maybe the police should not get involved in these chases at all. I mean, not that those other police in England that were killed were involved in the chase. To be honest, they were just unlucky to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. But, you know, the police that were chasing those boys, as soon as they went on the motorway going the wrong way, the police stopped their pursuit. And that's right, because the police can end up killing themselves and somebody else. So there's got to be other ways you can try. If you don't catch them on the night, at least if you get, you know, some CCTV of them or follow them in a helicopter or whatever. A drone, isn't there some way they could release a drone to follow them and then follow them to where they end up going to. There's got to be another way of doing it. Anyway, Martin said it was the second appalling crash we've seen on our roads in a matter of days as a result of the reckless driving of a car on the wrong side of the motorway. So there must have been another incident as well. He said it was an irresponsible and dangerous act, and it's shocking that in some cases it's been done for likes on social media. That's Michael Martin, the Irish PM, or Taoiseach, or whatever they call him. Very unpronounceable. Isn't it Liz Truss who famously called him the T-sock? I try and avoid saying T-sock now, but I end up nearly saying it because I don't know how to say it. So he said it was important to emphasise that social media companies have a big responsibility in respect of this. So, yeah. Well, social media don't care, do they? You know, the companies, the big companies, they don't care. As long as they're earning money, they don't give a shit, really. But you know what? Sometimes you can upload, you know, me as a true crime podcaster, sometimes some things you upload and they, you know, demonetize it or whatever, and you have no idea why they've done that. Anyway, so they're looking into it over there in Ireland as well. You know, for those of you that live in other countries, does it happen in your country, or do you know of it happening in your country too? Is it a worldwide sort of phenomenon, or is it more in Britain, Ireland, etc.? Yeah, let me know anyway. Now, I just wanted, before we finish, I just wanted to talk about the sociology of these boys are like involved in. You know, there's like sub-societies in Britain, you know, people who can't or feel that they can't. You know, they're brought up maybe on benefits. Their families have been on benefits forever, generationally. They're brought up on benefits. They're never encouraged to work. They start drug dealing, drug taking, you name it. They get into petty crime and whatever. It's a cycle. But they are important within their own subcultures. So although, like, as far as established society in Britain is concerned, they feel that they're not a part of that, but because of that, they feel like the normal rules of society don't apply to them. And it is a well-researched subject, this, in sociology. Even years ago when I was studying, many years ago, they were talking about these sub-societies or subcultures. And these are smaller groups within a larger culture, but they share distinct values, norms and behaviours, but still participate in main society. You know, you have to live in the society you are, but they reject laws, you know, norms. They reject they create their own little society. Now, there are different kinds because subcultures, they're not all bad. You know, there are some groups who have unique values or styles or interests, and they don't openly oppose the overall culture. So these could be like gamers or bikers or musicians. You know, they're not criminals. They don't go out doing criminality, but they have their little worlds, you know, that are more important to them than the, you know, general society. So that's normal subcultures, if you like. Yeah, and they're not a danger so much to society. The ones that are dangerous to society are countercultures. So these are subcultures whose values and norms actively clash with or reject mainstream societal standards. So these can be radical political groups. You know, they could be all sorts of things. But the most sort of scary ones are the ones that, yeah, you know, the thing is, most of us, you know, although we might not agree with the police in every single thing they do, we don't, you know, policing is policing by consent. You know, surely accept that you can't just, I don't believe in anarchy. You can't just let society run amok without the police or agents of the state, but they have to be monitored, to make, because they will abuse their power. Some do abuse their power. So they have to be regulated. But I don't advocate ever, the police, at the end of the day, if people get into difficulty, the first thing they're going to do is ring the police. That's what they'll do. If someone's following you down a dark alley at night and you're scared, are you going to ring, who are you going to ring? You're going to ring 999, aren't you? Say, please come and help me. That's what the police are there for. They're to keep us safe. Now, they don't all do it. I know that there are bad apples in the police force, and we've talked about this so many times. There's always going to be bad people in every profession. Some people will be attracted to the police force because of the power it gives them, and that is a fact. But there's probably, that is maybe what, 5-10%, if that. I don't know what the actual statistics are, but the vast majority of people in the police force, they genuinely trying to make society better. Don't forget, they are society too. They have family, they have friends. They want society to be safe for their family too. But these countercultures, they literally just reject the police completely, or anyone who tries to tell them what to do. They have their own, they even have their own police force in a way, because they have their own codes, don't they? Like, I do think they're different now from in my day. You had the villains, the Quality Street gang in Manchester, you'd have the Craze, or all this organised crime and everything. But even then, they had some sort of code within there. Now I don't think there's any respect for anyone, not for children, not for women, not for. It's just that they just seem to hate the world, except for their own little, I don't know, their own little subculture, and they create their own laws, their own norms. What's acceptable, what's not. That most of it's fueled by drugs and alcohol anyway. They're not, those boys, I doubt very much of those boys that were in that car in either of those two cases we've just talked about, what are their blood toxicology results going to show? I bet they were high as a kite. I do think drugs, particularly drugs, even more than alcohol, is the scourge of modern society all over the world. All these cases that you look at in America or whatever, they're all on bloody meth or crystal or whatever. I don't even know about most drugs, but they're off their heads on drugs most of the time. It affects them. They don't think logically. Anyone who thought logically would know driving the wrong way at 110 miles an hour down a major road is not a good thing to do. It's not an advisable thing to do. You don't have to be Einstein. It's not rocket science to know that. So who would even think of doing that? I think all teenagers do things a little bit more recklessly, don't they? That's why your car insurance is so high until you get to 25, because statistically, young people do have more accidents in general. But it's not normally because they're driving the wrong way deliberately down a motorway. They might be speeding a bit, or they might have had a drink or whatever. But this is off the wall, isn't it? Really, for ludicrousness, Yeah, yeah. Is that right, Kelly? It happens in Australia, and you're saying there was a guy live stream in America doing. Well, is he still doing it? See that if there's a live streamer on YouTube, say, or TikTok or whatever, you said it's on Kick. That is the responsibility of the streaming, of that that platform to not allow those things to be shown, isn't it? I don't understand why they're not required to take responsibility. Is that just me? I mean, I know you can't, when it's first put up there, you can't always, but as soon as it comes, or if somebody reports it or whatever, it should be removed. Oh, I think this world's getting too strange. Honestly, some of us I'm getting emotional now, but you do just think, what's going on in the world? What's happened to people? They've lost their way, haven't they? People have lost their way, and you know what? You could stop looking at social media, you could stop doom scrolling, all those things you could stop doing, and maybe you wouldn't get to hear about it. But you still wouldn't be safe when you're going off on holiday with your little boy of 7 years old and 2 other friends driving up to the motorway, and then boom, a car smacks into you and ruins that. So it doesn't matter whether you read social media, you're not, it's happening. It's happening out there, and it needs talking about. And we need more prisons, and these, to me, because the thing is, sentences now in the UK, they're not relevant to the crimes. They're relevant to how much space there is in the prison. So if you're a child lover, you can get just a suspended sentence or whatever, because they haven't got anywhere to put you. Or you get your sentence reduced for good behaviour. The sentences should not ever be reduced. They're not long enough in the first place. So why would they be reduced? If somebody gets a life sentence and it's like 18 years, they call that a life sentence. 18 years is nothing for taking somebody's life. Oh, such and such been convicted, they've got a life sentence, 18 years. They might only serve 9 or 10 years. It's all wrong in the UK. At least in America, I do think they have a lot better sentences. Life should mean life. And I know in America, they've got so much more space. They've got bigger prisons. They've got more space to build more prisons. But, this should be a priority to me. Any prime minister, I mean, they're not even going to go into talking about the cartoon prime minister we've got at the moment. But the priority is to keep your people safe. That is your priority as Prime Minister. And many, average people out there, the quiet majority, that most, 90 odd % of people just want to live their lives, support their families, enjoy their lives in a peaceful, safe way. They don't want to be terrified of going out of the house like it feels like at the moment. God, if you don't get stabbed, you're going to get a car coming towards you the wrong way on the motorway, or you're going to get, just one thing after another that you've got to be scared of as soon as you shut your door in the UK. Terrorist bombs. Oh, there's always something. But people should feel safe. You should feel safe when you're going about your normal life. You should feel safe when you take your dog for a walk in the woods. Not be scared because there's people living there, maybe who are homeless and on drugs or whatever. All those things. I'm scared now of places I used to go and walk on my own with my dogs. I won't go now. And that's even here in Spain. And it's because I've been influenced by the cases. And on, I think it's Thursday, I've planned to go for a nice remote dog walk with somebody else, because I wouldn't go on my own now, whereas years ago, I would go on my own. I would get up, go out, be pitch black. I'd be out in the camper. I wouldn't even think of being in danger. And I'm going to start doing it again, actually. I've been thinking about it, and I thought, no, because then you're letting your life be affected. Your life is being affected by these twonks. It's like you're in prison because of them. They're the ones who should be in prison. Anyway, so is there anything else that I wanted to talk about? So yeah, these subgroups, they have these deviant behaviours, which for them and their sort of environment, the people in their environment, are not deviant. They're normal. Wearing a balaclava, robbing people's cars, driving the wrong way up the motorway for thrills. So these are deviant behaviours, but in their world, they're normal behaviours, and in fact, they're sort of behaviours that are respected. Or oh God, that's Tomo. He drove the wrong way down the motorway the other night. I nearly killed someone. Oh, he's fucking brilliant. This is the mindset, how thick they are. They respect people for doing ludicrous things instead of respecting people, for the fact that they go to work every day and try and support the families. And, and I've told this story before. Someone I used to work with a long time ago at Ladbrokes, someone in his extended family found out that he was going out, robbing houses. And he said to me, "You think you're brave, going to someone's house, burglarizing a house? You think that makes you a man or makes you brave? What makes you a man? It's getting up every day and going to a job that you might not even like that much, but working, getting the money at the end of the month to pay for your family. That's what being a man is. That's what's being brave is. Not, going out robbing other people's possessions that they've worked really hard for." And I remember, that stuck with me what he said, and I thought, you're so right, because that's what my dad did. He never earned loads of money, but he got up every morning, he got on his bike, and he cycled over an hour to work, whatever the weather, because he never drove. And I didn't appreciate it at the time, but when I look back now, I think, bloody hell, that's a man. That's a man who's supporting his family. And, oh God, the people these days won't even get on a bus, never mind get on a bike and cycle for an hour through the rain and the snow and God knows what, or they're on benefits, so they don't think that they need a job. I do think a big problem is the benefits culture. And, I know that's controversial for a lot of people, but you should only be on benefits if if you need to be. There's too many people who are on benefits for reasons that, in my eyes, I just think, no, young people, there's nothing wrong with them. We've got a bit of anxiety. Well, we've all got anxiety. I had terrible anxiety when I was young. And my era, I suppose, was an age when people didn't maybe care enough about anxiety and things like that. Now everybody's got it. Everyone's on the spectrum. Everyone's got ADHD. Everyone, and, oh yeah, can't work. Well, who can work then? Work would help you with your anxiety. That's my opinion. No, it's contentious, and sorry. I don't mean to be, but there are plenty of people who genuinely have got anxiety and all those disorders. They go to work, they battle through it every day. And, I'm full of admiration for those people. Life is hard. Sometimes I think you can cosset your kids a little bit too much. I'm guilty of it. I think we're all guilty of it, especially nowadays. Life, whether we like it or not, we're here and we've got to cope with it. And hiding away from it doesn't help, does it? So, just got to get out there, do what you can. And you can talk about the things. I think the good thing these days is you can talk about it. If you've got anxiety, if you're feeling anxious or whatever, your parents are more likely to listen to you. My parents, just like, oh, I don't want to go to school today, I'm feeling a bit anxious. It was just like, get to school. I'm not saying that's good either. That's the whole other extreme. But yeah, have these boys been cosseted too much? Is that how they've ended up? Well, they can't be anxious, can they, if they're going in a bloody car driving the wrong way down a motorway? Can't have anxiety issues. Well, they haven't got any issues now because they're all dead. It's the most pointless act. Both these cases that we've talked about, so pointless, because that's 10 boys. Think about it like that, 10 young men dead. Apart from the 2 policemen and the family that are in hospital from the other case, there's 10 young men have lost their lives before the age of 25. And that is tragic, whichever way you look at it. And they could have gone a different way in life, you know, and they could have become productive members of society. Instead, they're not any member of society, they're dead. 10 young men dead within a week or so of each other. So, I don't know, just seems to me such a tragedy on so many levels. You know, their lives just, because they were little boys once. You know, I always think this when I look at criminals. You know, they were babies. Their births were celebrated by their parents one way or another, you know. And now they're dead. They've not even got to the age of 25. And what have they got to show for their life? They've brought misery to other people as well. But what contribution have they made to society? It's so sad. Really is sad. It's terrible, terrible tragedy. But anyway, the innocent victims, of course, in this are these 2 policemen. And, you know, people are so down on police. I just don't get it. Be down on the bad policemen, yeah. Some policemen are bad, and nobody will call them out more than I will. Like the guy that I was talking about from America, who's just died in prison, who shot that woman in his own home. He was a bad person for what he did to her. But these weren't bad people, as far as we know, they weren't bad people. Wayne Couzens was a bad policeman. You know, there have been bad policemen. But some police, in fact, the majority of police, are actually good and they're trying to serve society. So I think it's about time we start celebrating that more and not being so down on them. You know, we need to be down on these subcultures, these feral teenagers that are just running amok and making everyone's lives a misery if they live amongst them. You know, fancy being terrified to put your head out the door. Like literally, not just because you're feeling antisocial, but actually scared to go out because you don't know what these feral kids are doing. Oh dear. So yeah, I mean, the question that I asked at the beginning of this video, is Britain out of control? Is it completely out of control? Can it not be governed? Can it not, you know, have the police lost their control? You know, do you, if you're one of my viewers who lives in Britain, do you feel safe? You know, maybe it's areas, maybe different, some areas feel safer than others. That could be, isn't it? But, and then look at Anne Widdecombe. She lived in a nice area and look what happened to her. Is there just too much violence in general in society? You know, why have people sort of lost the, what's the word? Have people lost the sort of you know, normally there's something in your cortex, isn't it, in your brain that stops you doing bad things, you know, because we all have bad thoughts, don't we? You know, and you can get angry and you can feel like doing something bad, but there's something in your brain that stops you doing it. Have we lost that? Is that going, you know, that people think it's acceptable to wander around with a knife, for example, whereas years ago you wouldn't have even occurred to you to carry a knife around with you. Have we lost something? You know, have we lost something in what we think is acceptable or not acceptable? Or are we just, or has it always been the same, but we're just hearing about it more now because of social media and TV and videos and things like that? maybe that's it. Maybe it's always happened, but now we just get to know about it more. Anyway, let me know what you think. I'll let you know any developments in this case, but I probably won't talk about it much now unless it's anything that I think you'll really find important, because I think this is going to be a very complex investigation. But the thing to just remember is 7 people died in this accident and 5 young people in the other accident in Ireland. That's remarkably large number of people, isn't it, in 2 incidents? Tragic. Okay, so take care of yourself, be careful out there. I don't know how you can really be careful against someone driving the wrong way up a motorway or whatever, but how can you stop getting involved in an incident like that? What can you do? I have no idea, because you know what, when you're out there driving, you can only really be responsible for being careful yourself. You never know what somebody else is going to do you? I always try and drive defensively, just in case, because make sure someone's stopped, even though I might have right of way. I quite often just wait and see what the other person's going to do, because you can't, that won't help you when you've had a crash. Oh, well, I had the right of way, but you've still been in a crash, maybe you're still dead. So you've always got to watch what is the other person going to do. Because they can't be trusted, can they? They can't be trusted to do the right thing, sadly. So take care of yourselves, and I'll see you really soon in the next video. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, please. Don't forget to check out my Ko-fi page to see. Remember that the 25% discount is till the end of the month. I was going to share my Ko-fi page again. That's where the shop is. Thank you to those of you who have bought merchandise already, and I'll see you really soon in the next video. Thank you for the jewels, Lily, and in fact I'll show them. Give the 2 jewels, Silver Star. I'll see you really soon in the next video, and until then, may your God go with you.